Welcome to Chug. Today we're looking at the most hated article in metal history, Aesthetics of Hate. But one can see why the heavy metal fans so closely identified with Mr. Abbott. He was an ignorant, barbaric, untalented possessor of a guitar and large amplifier system. When these words were written, the metal world was deep in grieving. The much-loved Pantera and Damageplan guitarist, Darrell Lance Abbott, better known simply as Dimebag, had only been dead for 6 days, shot and murdered on stage by 25-year-old ex-Marine Nathan Gale. Dimebag's death left the metal world reeling in horror, but little did we know there was yet more to come. 6 days after the shooting, an article appeared online, Aesthetics of Hate, R.I.P. Dimebag Abbott, and Good Riddance. The article was penned by William E. Grimm, contributing editor to an online conservative website called Iconoclast. The article was unsympathetic to Dimebag's demise. Grimm believed that Dimebag's death was of his own making. He described the guitarist as freakish in appearance, more simian than human. And according to Grimm, the fans who showed up to mourn Dimebag were an assemblage of ignorant, semi-human barbarians who were filthy in attire and manner, intellectually incoherent, and above all else, hideously ugly up to the point of physical deformity. This is the story of Aesthetics of Hate, the most hated article in metal history, and the song it spawned. So here's the thing. Grimm's vitriol wasn't a new phenomenon. It was simply the latest iteration of a half-century old cycle of elitism. The very label heavy metal began its life not as a badge of honor, but rather as a sneer from critics who found the music unintelligent. To the early 70s press, this music was merely noise for the uncivilized. Heavy metal was a derogatory term used to describe music that felt thick, slow, mechanized, and stupid. So is it so shocking when Grimm defines himself as such an elitist? In his own words, I am a conservative elitist. I want the very best form of government, the very best of civilizations, the very best educational system, the very best literature and art, the very best music, the very best way of life. Just a brief aside, the writing in this article is terrible. For someone who is a so-called elitist, he does not write very well or very coherently or very clearly. He does not seem as intelligent as he thinks he is, and that's probably the biggest argument against his own argument to some degree. Anyway, unlike Grimm, the rest of the elitists eventually evolve. Legendary critic Lester Bangs famously trashed Black Sabbath's eponymous debut, only to realize a year later that their ugly distortion was the only honest mirror for a world that had lost its polish. It took some time, but Lester Bangs realized eventually that the barbarians were the ones telling the truth. Grimm, however, chose to stay in his ivory tower, clutching his Hayden records and comparing us metalheads to apes. See, Grimm failed to understand the foundational law of this genre. In metal, being called noisy or ugly isn't so much a slur, it's part of the raw appeal. In this sense, by taking the title of a hateful essay and turning it into an anthem, Machine had demonstrated that being called barbaric is often just shorthand for being honest and real. That's why it makes sense that Aesthetics of Hate came to Robb Flynn, frontman and guitarist of Machine Head, as a Neanderthal burst of anger. Taking Grimm's article as inspiration, Aesthetics of Hate rages against elitism and is a vitriolic defense of metal as an art form. The song doesn't pretend to be beautiful. It channels that ugly, raw energy of metal into the song. It's intentionally discordant. The ominous intro is followed by a brutal downpick thrash riff, but it's a false start. A guitar pick scrapes the lower strings before harsh, double-stop bends welcome back that opening crushing thrash riff. Throughout the verses, frantic downpicked riffs chase one another up and down the fretboard, and staccato power chords are used to emphasize Robb Flynn's vocals in the third line of each verse. You called us pathetic for our respect. While guitarists Robb Flynn and Phil remain in harmony throughout the song, they're rarely in sync. This call and response guitar dueling raises the tension. Listeners feel on edge and subconsciously are waiting for those moments when the guitars are playing the same notes, even if just for a moment. And this edginess leads then to the breakdown and solo. The song moves from classic thrash metal to a more metalcore style breakdown. Each alternate extreme of open notes feels like a question, one which is never resolved by the rapid answering notes. The ensuing solo feels like a true tribute to the fallen icon. Trilling and pinch harmonics, a staple of Dimebag's style, abound, as do whammy bar antics and ascending alternate picked licks. See, Grimm's article had pushed Machine Head to the point where they were far beyond driven. The name of Pantera's best-selling 1994 album is woven into the lyrics. He made us driven, such deep reverence, far beyond the rest. Far Beyond Driven was the first extreme metal album to debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200. This reminds us that Dimebag wasn't just some untalented possessor of a guitar, but a chart-topping musical pioneer. Just as Grimm penned Aesthetics of Hate to judge a subculture he didn't understand, Robb Flynn used that same title to defend the subculture in question. Grimm's article is challenging to find online now. While researching this video, I could only find a reprint on metaldisciple.com. The Iconoclast website no longer exists. Iconoclast.ca, somewhat hilariously, leads to an interior design website. In the meantime, Aesthetics of Hate has become a canonical metal song. It was even nominated for a Grammy for Best Metal Performance in 2008. Because here's the thing. Real art is often ugly. Because real humans are often ugly. And while elitists like Grimm argue that art should be civilized, like Haydn or Beethoven, Machine Head argued that art should reflect the raw reality of the human condition. The band embraced their ugly, unaesthetic music style to create a lasting impression on the art scene and on metal. For these reasons, the song was prophetic, but your hate was over all too soon, because nothing is over and nothing's through until we bury you. And I think it's safe to say now that William Grimm and the publication at which he was a contributing editor have been very, very much buried. Hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this deep dive, definitely subscribe to the Chug. I'll be uploading these deep dive videos once a week. And please leave a like below if you'd like. That would be great because it tells the YouTube algorithm gods to say, hey, this is a great video. Until next time, horns up.